So, hello everyone, welcome to another trader interview. So, we have Alan today with us. He is a new member at A1 Trading. So, I found him on Trader Nick's channel. You're now a regular live streamer there as well, right?
Yes, I do hop on every Tuesday, and the goal is to get on there more often.
Awesome, awesome. So, let's get it started with the interview. The first question that I have is how did you get into trading? And if you could tell us a little bit about your background. So, did you maybe study finance? Did you work in finance? So, along those themes.
Yeah, so trading was actually never my first original option, and my career path was always going to be cybersecurity, do the military, and when I was in high school, my dad introduced me to trading the markets. He had a little bit of experience in forex. We opened up my first demo account, and we opened the account up. We put a demo trade on. I remember we went to go eat dinner, and at the time I was in high school. I was working at Chick-fil-A, a fast food restaurant for those that don't know. And when we come back an hour later, I was up like $200, right, paper money. And in my eyes, that was the coolest thing ever. And the fact that I was working at a fast food restaurant, that $200, even though it wasn't real, it opened my eyes, right? And I was like, dang, this is really cool. But to kind of go back to how I got into it, it was an accident. I originally was going to be in cybersecurity. My dad was also in the military. And so for my old childhood, since I was pretty young, when I was in middle school, I went to a military academy in Hollywood, Texas. I went to Washington, D.C. for a couple times to just get that experience and connect with other high-ranking officials in the military. And right when I was about to graduate high school, the summer before that, I went to the U.S. Naval Academy, and that was the college I was going to go to. And then during that period, from that visit till high school graduation, I went ahead and broke my back. So originally it was just a small little hurt thing. I ignored it, and it progressed and progressed, and then I had herniated discs, two of them. And so that made me ineligible to go into the military. And so whenever I graduated high school, I went ahead and, was pivoting and thinking like, what am I going to do with my life? And I remembered, finance and trading. And this was around 2020 time, right? The whole COVID traders, right? Everyone was talking about it, wanting to do it. And I remember my dad introduced me to it back then. So we revisited that conversation. And by this time, he's like, doing his thing. He worked for oil and gas. And so I started self-learning, self-education, read books, YouTube videos, bought courses, a lot of them bad, 90% of them were bad. And I just went down that rabbit hole. And then I got a job at a bank, Chase Bank, JPMorgan Chase, where I was, soliciting new funds, new business for our wealth management clients or wealth managers. And I had the privilege of learning and working alongside those really experienced people. And that's where I got that hint of like fundamentals, macro, like that's where the bigger money, affluent, intelligent investors, that's what they're considering in their thing, right? So I use that, and then with the technicals that I have been learning on my own for a couple of years now, and I kind of just developed it into one thing until 2024 when I left the firm and started doing it full time.
And so at the bank, were you more in the sales department at first, or were you in the trading and investing department?
So I was in the sales department first. So it was wealth management, like more of a rebuilding portfolios or rebalancing them or making new ones, right? Depending on someone's risk appetite. We weren't on the trading desk, like what you would see on the movies or something like that. But I was on the sales side working with the wealth managers, and that's how they would, they were the ones that would form the opinions or kind of break something down. We'd send it over to execution, and then they'll just kind of head and place the trade.
Cool, cool. And so, sorry, how old are you?
I'm 23.
23, cool. And you said your dad was in the military, right?
Yes, he was in the Navy.
In the Navy. So did that kind of, let's say, your childhood, was he like strict?
He was strict when he had to. So he gave me, he was like he gave me all the freedom in the world. But if I make a mistake or whatever, he'd kind of like, all right, let's get back in here. And when that was the case, you'd know, right? That's when the military kicked in. Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine that the discipline that he instilled in you is probably a huge help in your professional life nowadays.
Definitely, like those principles, they mean the world to me. And perhaps off camera, we can talk about some funny stories or some cool stories. We can go that route. Yeah.
Sure, sure, sure. And how did you break your back? Was it like playing sports or?
Yeah. So I was overweight, right? And I wanted to
Okay.
lose weight really fast. So I was
Okay.
exercising, running, doing everything. And what the doctors came down to was you hurt yourself doing that. And I remember
Yeah.
initially I was like, man, something hurts. But I was like, in 2 weeks, it'll be away. It'll go away. So I ignored it. I ignored
Yeah.
it. 2 months later, I ignored it until it was really broken. And then I felt it every single day, 24/7. And I was with that pain for a while. The surgeons didn't want to touch me until I turned 18. And then that's when I finally got it fixed. But by then, I was ineligible, pre-existing medical condition, can't go into the military.
Yeah, 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 I can imagine that. Well, I guess it's destiny then. But so how did you discover your current trading edge? I know you're trading Forex mostly, and you're trading
Yes.
fundamentals plus technicals. Is that correct?
Yeah, I've always stuck with currencies as far as for my personal approach. Like when we were, at work at the bank, it was more equity stuff, bonds, more structured stuff like that, more the traditional investments. But I always liked currencies, and I remember my dad always saying, "There's like thousands of stocks out there, but there's only a handful of countries. So study the handful." It's the stock market, although it works really well. Me personally, I just stuck with the currency side of things, and I've stuck with it ever since. And I think that's why I've kind of developed a kind of a intuition or kind of niche for it. But how I came about it was I just read all these on my self education side. I did the technical analysis, which I think every retail trader does. They go so deep into the technical analysis side, which really doesn't
Yeah.
take that much long to master, as you probably know already. And so I had that experience. And then when I kind of went to the bank and merged that like macro viewpoint, that's when I merged it to. And that's when things started to click. Things were starting to make sense. Whenever I would back test, I would be like, okay, like the data is showing me that, most of my big movers happen from in New York time when there's big catalyst moves. It's not because I was super good on my technicals. It's just because that print went ahead and moved that market. And so the biggest percentage of everything happens in that time zone, for example, right? So that's how I merged it too. And from there, I just started building onto that.
And so if you had to choose one, technicals or fundamentals, which one would you choose?
Fundamentals.
Fundamentals? Okay, cool,
Actually,
cool, cool.
I would choose sentiment.
Sentiment. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
We
so how
see
do you
that
read sentiment?
yeah, so I have my computers and everything back here, and I'm super grateful for this tool, and anyone can use this tool, Financial Juice, right? Or anything similar to that where you can get real-time news. And the cool thing is they do most of the work for you. So these really big important moves, these catalysts are highlighted in red. And what you'll notice is throughout the day or throughout the week, if you have the ability to just have it on your screen, I have it on my phone and my screen. So when I'm at my computer, I have it on. And when I'm doing something else, I get a notification on my phone. You will see those catalyst news. And if you see a narrative, right, kind of coming over and over and over again, you can reference the price chart depending on the asset that you're doing or looking at, and you can see how it reacts. And so most of my success this year has been because of that. So Trump tariffs, initially, we remember it was going to be inflationary. It was more of an isolated thing with US, Canada, Mexico, and China. And when you'd hear a headline for Trump tariffs, right, US Canadian, jump 150 pips easy, right? And then it'll flush back down an hour and a half later. But that was the move then. And if you weren't paying attention to that, right, because there was so much sentiment driven behind that catalyst, you won't know what the market cares about. And so in this environment, I think there's a lot of whipsaws and there's a lot of, just volatility that if you're not mindful of that, it's going to be more difficult to navigate than it would be kind of 6 months ago or a year ago.
Yeah, yeah. I think the latest example would be U.S. oil with Israel and Iran. Like I was on
Exactly.
Financial Juice and the headlines were crazy. The whole day, red news, red news, red news, and the U.S. oil was just skyrocketing up. So if you were trading U.S. oil, scalping it possibly even, you could have gotten in on that uptrend. So yeah, I thought that was pretty
Yeah,
interesting.
Marco, that's like the most recent example that you just highlighted. I remember I was at an event, High Rocks, and it's like 7 p.m. my time, and I see the notification on my phone, and then I see oil's up like 4%, and then it's 8%, and I'm like, oh my god! So I'm like, okay, let's see moving forward. If we do keep seeing this kind of narrative, this rhetoric, let's see if the market still cares about it. And it seems like it is, right? If I remember correctly, it's pretty much approaching the highs that it did initially.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And also, so could you run through a trade idea that you have? Maybe like take a trade from the last 1 or 2 months, like from the start to finish. Let's say, do you first look at the charts or do you pay attention to the news? If you could run through the process.
A trade that I remember was off the top of my head, dollar yen, right? It was depreciating, and this was when this whole 50% reciprocal tariff was going around. There was a lot of uncertainty around that. Are people making deals or not? And the dollar yen was approaching, it was around 142, right? We had already sold off from the April 2nd, that sell off. So we went from like 145, we're now approaching 142. I pulled up the dollar yen on the weekly and the daily chart. They look identical. That 140 handle was a floor that I had in mind. So I drew up that zone, and I do that for most currency pairs. Any major currency pair, higher time frame, I draw those very obvious zones, and I want to see what happens when we approach those zones. As we were approaching those zones, the dollar was in a significant sell-off. It was basically sell all dollar and just move across somewhere else, because the U.S. was the main aggressor in all this. So those dollar outflows were pretty heavy. And once we approached that 140 handle, I read in my news terminal that, India was having talks with the U.S. And that was like the first hint of U.S. having a conversation with anyone else regarding trade deals. And I thought to myself, even if this doesn't happen with India right now, if we get another hint of someone else coming to the table, because that timeline's coming out, then we can see those dollar inflows as people are like, okay, maybe we get some more confidence. So that, plus that it was a huge, just like floor, that a big level that it had. And look, it could have went bad, right? But that was, you want to build the biggest probability setup, or the one that's in most of your favor. And so I did that. And so as we got there, that U.S. India headline came up, that kind of put that floor in there. Price was steady above there, and I bought it at that level. And then soon enough later, you get the UK coming up, right? You have that they were showcasing the U.S. and the UK doing that, and that really propped it up. And that was about 700 pips from where I bought to the top of it. Now I didn't capture the whole 700 pips because I usually trail. I got like 500 of those. But that was a really good idea of how you can use your technicals, right? Super easy, daily time frame. And then you just pay attention to what the market cares about, and you can catch moves like that.
So you identified a nice level where the price could bounce off of, and then you were waiting for the news for confirmations. You bought, and then basically price went up, if I got that correctly.
Yes, exactly. And
Cool.
on the contrary, let's say we got to that level and price just stays in there for too long, right? Too longer than what I would like. And we don't see any developments. We see continued like uncertainty. Then that's when you use discretion and you say, look, I'm not going to buy at this level. Although it's a really great level, maybe we can get lower.
I wanted to ask you about your trading hours. So from when do you start trading? From when does it end? Do you maybe wake up during the night to monitor positions? So if you can talk more about that.
If my positions are low big, then I will be waking up in the nighttime. We've all been there. I'm sure we have. You get a little bit attached, right? But for the most part, I don't let that happen. I usually build on positions. So I'll start small and build onto it until it does become one of those bigger positions. But for the most part, Marco, I just I have levels that I'm eyeing. I have alerts for them. And, there's really no specific trading hours now where I'm actively watching, right? Like, let's say I get into a trade, I get hit into it overnight. I'm going to let it do its thing. Throughout the day, I'm going to monitor the news, monitor the economic calendar. I have to respect that, right? Because if I'm approaching a entry level, but I know I have an NFP coming up tomorrow morning, then I'm not going to get into it because I would rather just wait for the NFP. The NFP print can just completely validate my trade idea. So for the most part, I get in when I can, and I would say my active trading hours would be during the U.S. session when we have a lot of those overlapping big news. Like we have the England, Swiss National Bank rate decision, our rate decision, our FOMC. That's where I would kind of put my eyes on the market and pretty much look for it. But I would say I'm active all the time, right? It's like I'm always on the go. No matter if I'm eating, if I'm out, I have my phone with me, and if something big happens, I see it right away, and I can react on my phone.
So would you say you're more of a swing trader or a day trader? What's kind of the
Swing
average
trader.
hold?
I
Swing
would
trader.
say swing trader.
Okay.
In this environment, volatility has widened. The ATR, the average shoot range, has widened as well. So like before, right, early in the year, dollar Canadian would pop up 150 pips in 1 hour. And that would be a usual target for me. Anyway, from 80 to 150 pips would be like a swing trade for me. And the fact that those moves happen in such a short little time now, my time horizon switched up on my swing trade. So before I would swing trade for 3 days to a week or 2 weeks. The longer the better, right? I want to catch the most of it if I can. But with this new volatility, my expectations have shortened a little bit. So I would say average for this year, anywhere from like 3 days to a week maximum. The dollar yen one took about a week or a week and some change. But for the most part,
Yeah.
this volatility, man, your swing trade can be over with in a day or two, really.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. And so do you also use the edge finder in your trade execution?
Absolutely. So I use it to get a gauge as to where markets are at. So before at the firm, we had all the resources in the world, right? We had the actual human beings, the wealth managers that were super experienced, super knowledgeable. At the time, it was peak interest rates. We were navigating that market. So I had them for guidance, and not for guidance for my own personal trading because I couldn't, but just guidance on how someone would approach this market and how we're suggesting or advising our clients. But I had all the resources in the world, and when I left the firm, all that was taken away from me. Right, I was back to square one essentially on the fundamental side of things, and
Yeah.
I was searching for a tool, and I came across the Edge Finder. It pretty much matched what I use because I'm Forex driven, right? So all that Forex for a Forex trader has all the data you pretty much need and some. And so I do use it to just like look at things, right? Look at the health of the economy, see how things are trending lower, because anyone can gather that information for free. That's not the thing, but it's super time consuming. I don't know if you've been there before, where like you're getting the COT from here and then this and this and that. It's a pain, right? So that kind of helps consolidate and delegate that task. So I definitely use it for sure.
Yeah, I love that everything is in one place. And like since I've started using it, it really transformed my fundamental strategy. So it's not about all the data. You can get it for free, but putting it all in one place, that is what is extremely time consuming. So the Edge Finder is definitely a game changer. And for a little advertisement, if anyone in the audience wants to check it out, there's a link in the description. And there's a discount code as well. So we both use it. Trader Nick built it, and it's absolutely awesome for us retail traders because I think hedge funds already have these sort of things, but it's extremely expensive. It used to be extremely expensive. So having Edge Finder as an affordable alternative is awesome. And so what's your opinion on backtesting? Do you backtest a lot, or do you mostly do like forward testing?
I think back testing is extremely important, but I would say if I'm like talking to someone that just got started, right, or is learning, I would say don't do back testing yet. What I would rather emphasize is find out what type of style you want to back test first, because you can get into trading and you can back test every single strategy, but back testing I think should be a very intimate and time consuming task. So if you're brand new, you're still learning like whether you want to scalp or swing or position or whatever you want to do, right? Figure out that first. Figure out what kind of clicks for you, and once you have that in mind, then you can really invest all the time in the world and start back testing. Instead of just back testing in the beginning, it's really time consuming, and then you kind of get frustrated and you give up. I think you have a better chance if you just find out what you like first, then back test on that. And I found on my own back testing that like kind of like I talked about before, most of the percentage winners, like let's say I get in a euro dollar trade last night, right? It's pretty flat up until 8 a.m. my time. We have a big US print event. That right there will propel my trade to either take profit or stop loss, right? So like that data that I know is super significant for me. Now I know
Yeah.
that, you know, that's first of all, that's one thing I really want to keep an eye on. So I want to make sure I'm in line and I'm knowing what's going on in the world. Is CPI going to be coming in hot or cold? Does the market even care about CPI? Because I remember like 3 CPIs ago, it came in hot, the dollar sold off, right? I was like, what the heck?
Okay.
So that is definitely super important and a very intimate thing that I believe in. But I think for testing is where you get the real like experience from it, because no one can predict what's happening in the future,
Yeah,
and that's where you
absolutely.
really learn like the emotional aspect of it, or the fear, the greed of it, right? In hindsight, backtesting is really good, but it's also the hindsight trade, as we all know.
Yeah, I used to be like huge on backtesting, but the more experience I get, I notice that forward testing is the most important part because that's when real trades come in, real psychology. There's no like saying, "Oh, I would have taken that, I would have stayed out of that because of this, blah blah blah." There's just like the live markets and your strategy. So,
Yeah.
what are your current trading statistics? You did send me a MyFX book screenshot, which I will put on the screen. But if you can briefly mention, let's say, the win rate, the risk to reward, how many trades you're taking, let's say, per week or per month. So, a little bit about your strategy in terms of the raw numbers.
Yeah, so off the top of my head, I don't have it in front of me, but the
Mm-hmm.
percentage year to date is 27%, and that's off the principal balance. And then on the
Mm-hmm.
bottom one, that's 17%. So as you add more money to the account, obviously that kind of will switch up on you. The win rate, I would say, is pretty decent, like let's say 50%. But
Okay.
the
Mm-hmm.
the edge that I always preach is start small, and this is something I had to learn the hard way for sure, right? When you
Mm-hmm.
start a trade initially, pretty big or bigger than usual, it's so much harder to take off size when things are going wrong, right? That's when I say like when you try to trade into an investment, that's when you're screwed, right? Where you're like, oh, I'm gonna just wait and
Yep.
see this is gonna play out eventually. That's not a good feeling or spot to be in. And so I've transitioned, right? I've started emphasizing on starting a position relatively small or just neutral, right? But don't go over, let's say the general rule is like 1%. Don't go over that initially. If things start going well, and this is for swing trading because you have the longer time horizon, you're capturing more pips, so you have the room to do that. For
Mm-hmm.
scalping, unfortunately, I feel like I'm not a good resource for that respect. But swing trading, you start small and you build positions or scale into it when it's appropriate, right? And that's where you can turn a initially low risk trade to a higher probability. Your size is getting bigger, so the reward is a lot bigger. And you're just riding the trend. That's how I approach my trading. Average risk to reward. So I had a period in February when we transitioned from this whole like when the Trump trade and the optimism when it was basically dollar up, stocks up, and then that kind of flipped on us right as we started getting more aggressive on the tariff side. So that was a drawdown
Mm-hmm.
period for me that I had to climb out of. And the way I was able to climb out of any drawdown that I experienced is by kind of just like, look, for the next couple of trades, I'm not gonna make a killing, but I'm not gonna lose either. And so the thing is like you want to kind of set that floor and just be like, look, no matter what happens, I cannot get lower than the low, right? Or and the low is different from everyone. Some people their floor can be like 10%, some can be 20%. Some people could be like, they could have that realization when they're down 50%. But the way I climb out of that stuff is by starting small and scaling in, and knowing that in the next 3 trades, I'm not going to make it all back, but I am going to put a floor into it and start working towards eating it out or getting out of it.
And so I also asked how many trades you're taking, let's say, per week or per month on average.
I would say, recently this month, I think it was like 2 trades. Now, I'm thinking trade ideas. Now, executions, let's say I have one trade idea and I start building on that, then that can turn into 3 within that one idea. But I would
Mm-hmm.
say nowadays, especially how we are right now, like right now where the dollar is right now, it's pretty determinant on if the US gets involved. And if it does, then U.S. during war times is a big dominator. Then the dollar can
Yeah.
kind of catch a bid on that end. If we stay out of it, then we could continue the Fed. That could be the Fed's thing where they're like, look, we can start easing rates. I think it's time for the Fed to start easing rates. Honestly, we're pretty late in that respect. So for now, like in this environment, it's definitely dwindled less. So I try to just pick those higher quality ones, one or two a month, build on those if I can.
Okay, cool,
That's my numbers
cool.
for now.
So yeah, one to two per month, and searching for those really high probability trades. Um, and so what was your best and worst trading day?
I'll start off with my worst. I think
Okay,
it's always good to be transparent and worst.
okay,
I lost like five figures off of the
okay.
July August sell off. We had the Bank of Japan
Mm-hmm.
intervention. Then they raised the rates. That was a big unwind carry trade, deleveraging
Yeah,
event.
yeah.
I was on vacation July or like end of June going into July. I was not in tune with the markets. And that's what every time I leave, come back, I always, that was a big expensive lesson. I always take some time off to see what the market really cares about, kind of just get in the groove of it because things can change really fast, as you know. And
Mm-hmm.
so that was one mistake that I made was I came back into the market thinking all was dandy. Next thing you know, Japan does those moves, right? And it causes that big flash
Yeah.
event. And when I thought was a bottom, was not a bottom. It just kept going lower and lower and lower. And that was a big hit for me, in my opinion. And I'm glad it happened because you learn a lot from it. You learn a lot about yourself. You learn a lot about your system. You learn that the market really doesn't care about you. Now, the best day was that same year, just a month prior. I was
Okay.
shorting the euro, and most of my success last year was shorting the euro. I was shorting the euro, and then overnight, flash election in France. Huge uncertainty. Sunday comes
Mm-hmm.
around, we gap down lower, and we just continue flushing lower. And that was also a five-figure day.
Okay. Okay. So five-figure day is the best one, and kind of a five-figure loss is the worst one as well. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Huge swings up and huge swings down. That is trading. So I know, in my opinion, one of the biggest issues that retail traders have and that new traders have is they don't have enough capital. So
Yeah.
how do you deal with that problem? And if you maybe have some prop firm accounts, if you maybe had some payouts, so if you could touch on that subject, getting capital for retail traders.
Yeah, I when I started this, I left the firm. I used savings. I sold my car.
Okay.
I got very creative, and so I've done that route. Now in the U.S., I had an FTMO account that I passed the first stage of it, and then this whole metal quotes thing happened. FTMO withdrew their involvement
Yeah.
in the U.S. I
Yeah.
never got there. Um, what I would say, I think prop firms are a really good tool. I think they're a stepping stone. I think the ultimate goal would be to kind of be independent, trade your own capital. And I
Mm-hmm.
would say that traders should approach prop firms like dating. And what I mean by that is like pick the prop firm that's best for you, right? And it hits all your checklists, all your criteria. If you're a swing trader, but one of the conditions for the firm is like you have to liquidate your trade by the end of the day, then that's not a good partner relationship for you. There's gonna be an opportunity cost there that you shouldn't move forward with. Now it may have a really good price tag to it. It may be cheap and you get a big account size, but any of those, like in trading, you need every single edge you can get, whether it be holding the trade overnight, whether it be holding through news. Now that we know that like most of the big moves happen during news anyway,
Mm-hmm.
all those
Mm-hmm.
things you should really consider. If you're having a sacrifice, then it's not going to work out in the long run. You may get a quick hit here and there. You may pass the first step and the second step, but if you just look at the numbers, it's really crazy, Marco. I don't know if you know the numbers, but the people that pass that prop firm get to the second stage and then get a final payout, it's like extremely low. You really need to
Yeah.
have every
Yeah.
single edge in your advantage, every confluence, and say like, look, I'm not giving up anything. This aligns perfectly with me. It's going to be a good match, and then you can start using the prop firm.
Yeah, and one of the major issues is you pick a prop firm, you like everything, and then they go out of business the next month with
Yeah.
your account. So it's a major issue. Like people should stick to the most popular ones or like the oldest ones, such as FTMO, as you mentioned. But it's a risky business. I think the final goal is definitely investors probably opening like a small, let's say, hedge fund through Darwinex or something like that. So, did you look into doing possibly something like a small hedge fund or attracting investors and making some sort of a contract with a profit split?
Yeah, in the US, there's a way to go about it, but for the, in the US, there's lots of regulation. It can be costly upfront. That's a good question, Marco, because I would like to eventually, like before I would do that and just get like other people, random people. I'd prefer to have a longer track record. That would be the first thing. And then also too, being able to eat up that upfront cost. Now there's other ways to do it. You could do like a friends and family type of thing where you can have up to
Yep.
15 clients in the US. It's really hard, but you know what I learned when I was at the bank was I had 300 and something clients. My book of business was 8 figures. You become a babysitter, right? You go from like being a trader to being a babysitter. Now a lot of it is because like you should qualify the client first and make sure the expectations and stuff are aligned. That way, when surprises happens or things that are normal as a trader, when you hit a loss for a week in a row or whatever like that, for us that's like normal. But for a regular person that's not really involved in markets, that could be like, what's going on, and you kind of have to hold their hand through it. I think if you qualify the client well enough to where like they understand the risk, then sure, it'll be nice. But you know, that's a thing that I don't know if I want to go down just yet. It could be in the future. Who knows?
Yeah, I remember there's a successful Croatian investor that recently moved to the United States. I did an interview with him, and he moved there just because of like investor relations, so that he can be close to his investors. He can take them out for dinners and coffees and explain everything to them. And I guess it's like a full-time job just handling all of their calls and requests. And when you're in a bit of a loss, in a bit of a drawdown, then it's like the worst thing ever. So I can imagine the people skills needed to like handle investors is probably a lot, and it takes a lot of hours during the day.
It takes a strong person. For one, trading the markets is difficult in itself. The gentleman you interviewed must have a really good personality, super like all the patience in the world when you're, explaining these things to people. So kudos to him. Maybe in the future, I don't know yet though. Definitely not in the near term.
Yeah. And so what are some of your hobbies and interests outside of trading? So how do you, let's say, balance trading and all of the difficulties that come with that to kind of reset your mind? On the weekends, do you do some work as well, or do you reserve the weekends only for leisure activities and let's say trips, stuff like that?
So what you're asking, Marco, is what do I do when things go really bad? How do I get out of it? I love pickleball. I'm really blessed to like be right across the street from a court here. I love playing that. Recently, I just got a bike, so I go biking all the time. I like to swim. I just bought a Nintendo Switch. We're playing Mario Kart, the new one. But I really like markets, so I'm always doing something market related every day, it seems like. But when it's really important, like you said, when things get rough, you definitely need an outlet to detach yourself. Because at the end of the day, I feel like no matter what problem we get ourselves into, there's always a way out. There's always a way in. And actually, the cool thing about trading is that everything that happens to us is because of us. You know what I mean? Like the market didn't do anything to you. Sure, there was an NFP, but it was because you decided to put on a big lot size. And so that's why you're having this dilemma in the moment. And we can fix those problems and detach and reevaluate ourselves when we have those time off. So it's really important for me to whenever things go south or just on a regular day is always just clarify and just leave the desk, wind down and just self-evaluate and just go that route. What about you? What do you like to do?
Yeah, I usually hit the gym, and on the weekend I probably go to the seaside to kind of move away from the city and move away from computers and everything like that. That helps a lot. I also ride like a motorcycle, so that's pretty cool because riding a motorcycle takes all of your attention, right?
Yeah.
So when you're riding, you need to think about everything what you're doing. So you're not thinking about all of the trading issues, problems, losses, stuff like that. So that's a great way to reset as well. It's probably similar to when you ride a bike as well. Like it really takes your mind off of things.
That's a great way to put it. I never thought of it like that. Yeah. When I ride my bicycle, it's something like that. But I watch your vlogs, man. You go faster than what I go on my bicycle. So I'm sure you're definitely dialed in. I think what it also helps too is you mentioned going to the seaside. I also live by a
Uh-huh.
big body of water. I think just being by a big body of water really does something to you. It really helps you kind of just relax and just kind of just think straight.
Absolutely. And so, in which city are you based?
I am in Chicago, and so we have
Chicago.
Lake Michigan pretty right across the street from me.
Oh, awesome, awesome, awesome. Yeah, I love being on the seaside. Like my plan is to probably either move somewhere on the seaside or have a house there so that I can be there for months on end. And so, what are your plans and goals for the future? Where do you see yourself in, let's say, 5 to 10 years?
Definitely trading the markets.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
want to obviously grow the account as much as possible, but sustainably. But what I would like to do more of, Marco, and I appreciate this interview because this is a way for me to do it. This is actually a step in the right direction. And one of the first steps in the right direction is to give back to the trading community. So I remember when I was in high school or after high school, when I started going down this rabbit hole of self education, I was bombarded by a lot of fraudulent material, a lot of ingenuine people that really made the learning experience difficult, or it really just like lengthened my ramp up. And so I would like to give back, right? Be a genuine resource to the community, be transparent, partner with other people that are sharing that mission. So Trader Nick is a good example. You're a very good example. I went down
Mm-hmm.
a binge, right? I started watching your videos and I was like, wow, this is
Okay.
good stuff, right? You highlight the fundamentals, the macro, which is what, if you look at I'm not gonna say any names, but other people that are very popular in the space, they kind of really don't do that. But the
Mm-hmm.
reality is that it's important.
Yeah, thank you.
Now, not
Thank you
for
for the
every trading
feedback.
style, but it's important. Yeah, you're welcome, man. And so I want to partner with more people that are sharing that same mission and just make the trading space really well. I think the beauty of it is over time, if you just look at it 5 to 10 years, something naturally that happens, you could call it natural selection, if you will. But in any industry, usually the end genuine people start to fade out because people
Yeah.
realize
Yeah.
sooner than later that this is not working, and then they're gonna gravitate to the people that are actually truthful, like you, like Nick, like everyone else. And so, eventually, if you play the long game, you will reap that benefit of being able to help people in the masses. And so, if I can continue collaborating, if you would like, with you, with Nick, with anyone else, that's kind of moving in that direction, that's my aspiration, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the thing with the news that you mentioned, financial juice, I think it was the application. I just recently started using that. So I think you've been using it for, I'm guessing, months and years now. So I can learn a lot from you because it's a lot. You know, when you first open it, there's a lot of stuff on there. So trying to filter things out is something that I'm gonna need to get used to. But I can see a huge edge in that with using it as a confluence for my trading for some entries, for some currency pairs and stuff like that. So that sounds awesome. And so, do you have any advice for new traders, or what would be your top advice for new traders?
Oh, one advice. Let's see. I would say, this is what I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Really ask yourself if you like trading. Not the idea of trading, but actual trading. And actual trading means learning about what's going on in the world, being able to dissect it, being able to get the context of it. And if you can do that every day over and over and over, read the stuff and not get bored, or if you could like backtest, not get bored, if you could just dial in and not get bored. Now, granted, there are going to be periods of time where you have to invest a lot of time and it can get time consuming, but I think a lot of people get obsessed with the idea of like you're able to click a button, make money really fast, and that's it. That's like less than 1% of actual trading. That part of
Yeah.
the process takes like nothing, no time. I would ask if you truly like everything that comes with trading, because with anything in life, right? Whether you're a barber or whether you build motorcycles or whatever you do, if you love it enough, you can make a lot of money from it. So just make sure you love it enough to continue going forward. That's what I would say.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, trading is like a high-end competition. Only the top 1% of traders actually makes money. And most people come into the game of trading because they want freedom of time. They want to spend only 1 hour per day doing any significant work. And you need to know that the top traders are doing 10 hours per day, like maybe even more. They're treating
Yeah.
trading as a high-end competition as you would, let's say, football or, I don't know, riding car or driving cars, something like that. People just have a completely wrong mindset and wrong picture of what trading really is. And as you mentioned, I think that's great advice that you really need to love trading in order to succeed, because you need to put in a lot of work. I think you already know what I'm talking about. It takes a huge amount of work to become profitable, and then to become consistently profitable is a lot more work.
Yeah, and I'm gonna piggyback on what you just said. A lot of people think that becoming profitable is like a stage that once you get there, you're there. But it's actually like once you get there, you have to now maintain it, right?
Yeah.
Similar to like bodybuilding or fitness, you have a goal. If you, let's say you want abs, right? You get the abs, but you can't just stop there. You're always gonna have the abs. You got to constantly maintain the abs, right? To keep it long term, right? It's a full time thing. It's super time consuming. I'm on this stuff all the time, all times of the day, no matter what. If my phone's on me and it's not dead, I know what's going on in the world, and that's what you're going up against.
And so, where can people find you if they want to follow you? I know you have a YouTube channel. I know they can find you on A1 Trading with the live streams, but maybe some more social media that you can mention.
I don't have any social media, but this is something I've come across. I only have the YouTube and also just within the A1 Trading channels that are there. But I am going to branch off and perhaps maybe open like I know X is really good for finance, right? There's a big finance community there. I might go down that route, but for now, Aspire Trading Co. on YouTube, and within the A1 community, and you'll see myself, you'll see Marco there, lots of great people on that channel. If you just want to just dial in and just kind of get, the cool thing about A1 Trading is that everyone that's on there has a opinion that you can trust, I would say, and so there's a trader for everyone. You know, there's people that do equities, forex, indices, metals, all that stuff. So I think it's a good way to kind of take a step in the right direction if you're trying to take this trading serious.
Yeah, I think A1 Trading is a great hub of like real traders, because Nick filters everyone who comes on.
Yeah.
And you can trust the people that come on, that they are not like scammers and exaggerating all of the profits. So I'm going to put all of your links in the description of this video. So I highly urge you guys to check Alan out. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much, Alan, for coming on for this interview. And I'm down to do another one in, let's say, a few months or a year, so that we can see how you're progressing. And that would be about it. So thank you for watching, and see you guys in the next video.
Thank you, Marco. God bless you. God bless everyone, and safe trading, please. All right, this market's crazy, but you guys have a good one.
Yeah, see you.
Bye-bye.